Hello and a very good evening. You're watching the news at 6 on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are the headlines. Supreme Court refers matter relating to the entry of women in Kerala's Sabrimala shrine to 5-judge constitution bench issue to be tested against the fundamental rights of Article 14 and Article 15 of the Constitution. World Bank praises central government reforms to strengthen Indian economy. World Bank Chief Jim Yong Kim says results will be reflected in the mid and long-term growth figures. Supreme Court refuses to relax ban on sale of firecrackers in Delhi and NCR, directing the Delhi police to implement its order. Court says people can burst crackers that they may have purchased before its ban order. And a day after the US and Israel quit the UN cultural organization UNESCO, China says it will continue to actively participate in it, calls for other countries to also support the institution. Well, the Supreme Court today referred the matter of entry of women into the inner sanctum of the Kerala's Sabrimala temple to a 5-judge constitution bench. A 3-judge bench headed by the Chief Justice of India, Deepak Mishra, framed 6 questions for the Constitution bench, including whether the temple can restrict women's entry. The Constitution bench will also decide whether the practice is gender discriminatory and violated the right to equality and religious freedom of a woman. The Apex Court also framed a question whether the restriction qualifies as an essential religious practice of the Hindu faith, over which the Supreme Court has no jurisdiction. Sabrimala temple in Kerala does not allow menstruating women to enter its premises, as the presiding deity, Lord Ayyappa, is a bachelor. The World Bank has praised reforms carried out by the Modi government to boost the economy. Terming the reforms as significant, the World Bank President Jim Yong Kim said that the results would reflect in the long term. Kim made these remarks while speaking at the start of the annual meeting of the IMF and the World Bank in Washington. Here's a report.
The World Bank has hailed the reforms undertaken by the central government to strengthen the Indian economy. World Bank Chief Jim Yong Kim said that reforms carried out by Prime Minister Modi have been significant. He added that the results would be reflected in the mid and long term figures. Speaking at the start of the annual meeting of the IMF in Washington, Kim said that the slowdown in the economy was temporary. He also praised GST as a good move by the government.
Our team feels that the slowdown has been the result of waiting for the passage of the goods and services tax. Prime Minister Modi took a very different approach to our doing business report. And his approach was, we are going to move up quickly, and we're going to do the things that we need to do to reform the business environment. And the actions that he's taken are really quite substantial. So we'll wait to see what happens on the Doing Business report this year. But we've been very encouraged with the reforms that he has already taken.
The World Bank chief's statement comes a day after it downgraded India's growth forecast from 8.6% in 2015 to 7% in 2017 because of disruptions by demonetization and GST. IMF too lowered India's growth projection to 6.7% in 2017, 0.5 percentage points less than its previous 2 forecasts. Meanwhile, IMF chief Christine Lagarde underlined the need to redouble the efforts to create a more inclusive global trading system. She said such a system would benefit every economy in the world.
Our suggestion is that it is not time to be complacent. It's time to take those policy decisions that will actually enable more people and more countries to benefit from that recovery that should be made sustainable.
Just last week, the World Bank chief had said that the recent slowdown in India's economic growth is short-term and an aberration mainly due to the temporary disruptions in preparation for GST. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the Supreme Court turned down a trader's petition to relax the ban on the sale of firecrackers in Delhi. A 2-judge bench said relaxing the ban order would be against the very spirit of the verdict passed by the top court. It also directed the Delhi police to implement the order. The Apex Court also expressed pain over certain people trying to give its order a political colour after Advocate Prashant Bhushan referred to certain statements made by some political leaders. Traders had appealed against the court's October 9th order seeking permission to sell crackers for at least a day or two before Diwali on October 19th. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath reached Gujarat today for a two-day election campaign. Addressing a rally in Valsad, he attacked the Congress, calling it a symbol of devastation. He also praised Prime Minister Narendra Modi for development in Gujarat.
Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath arrived in Gujarat on Friday to campaign for the BJP ahead of the assembly elections. Adityanath joined his party's Gaurav Yatra in Valsad and lashed out at Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi, saying the Congress loses every time Rahul Gandhi campaigns for it.
वे विकास की बात करेंगे, ये विकास के समर्थक नहीं, ये विनाश के समर्थक हैं। इसीलिए जब इसरत जहां जैसी आतंकवादी गुजरात की धरती में सुरक्षा बलों के द्वारा मारी जाती है, तो उसका समर्थन करने के लिए राहुल गांधी आते हैं। ये कांग्रेस है, ये विकास नहीं, ये विनाश के प्रतीक हैं।
Stepping up his attack on Gandhi, Adityanath said the Gandhi family failed to usher in development in their political bastion Amethi, and they cannot be trusted with the development of Gujarat either.
तीन पीढ़ी जिन्होंने अमेठी और रायबरेली की उत्तर प्रदेश से नेतृत्व किया, तीसरी पीढ़ी राहुल गांधी के रूप में है। श्रीमती इंदिरा गांधी, श्री राजीव गांधी जी और आज श्री राहुल गांधी भी उसी अमेठी से सांसद हैं। राहुल गांधी ने कभी अमेठी के अंदर कलेक्ट्रेट को बनाने यानी जिला मुख्यालय के निर्माण की कभी सुध नहीं ली। जो अपने संसदीय क्षेत्र में, अपने जिले में कलेक्ट्रेट की नींव नहीं रख सकता, आप उससे उम्मीद करते हैं वे गुजरात के विकास की बात करेंगे।
Yogi Adityanath will campaign in the poll-bound state for 2 days to consolidate his party's core vote bank. His visit comes only 2 days after Rahul Gandhi's second visit to the poll-bound state. He's scheduled to address gatherings in South Gujarat on Saturday as part of the Gujarat Gaurav Yatra being organized by the party. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, another news now. Pakistan violated the ceasefire again today, firing indiscriminately in the Poonch sector of Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan started heavy shelling around 7 a.m., targeting forward posts and even residential areas along the LOC. Indian forces retaliated to Pakistan firing. Residents in Fakir Dara area of Poonch, which is barely 1.5 kilometers away from the LOC, were the worst hit as shells landed inside homes, forcing people to evacuate. Schools in the area were also shut. This is the second incident of Pakistani forces targeting residential areas and Indian posts along the LOC in less than 24 hours. On Thursday, an army jawan and a porter were killed and 6 others injured in firing by Pakistani troops.
आज सुबह 7 बजे के करीब ये पाकिस्तान ने जो है हैवी शेलिंग शुरू कर दी इस इलाके में। ये सिलसिला जो है उन्होंने कल से शुरू किया हुआ है, तो आज अचानक से एक बार फिर से ये सिलसिला शुरू हुआ, जिसमें उन्होंने हमारी जो फॉरवर्ड पोस्ट हैं उनको और साथ में जो रिहायशी इलाका है, जो फकीर दरा का एरिया है, इसको उन्होंने टारगेट किया है।
यहाँ पे जो भी रिहायशी इलाका है वहाँ घरों में बम आ रहे हैं और यहाँ पे आज स्कूल भी बंद है, आज सब स्कूल बंद है। ट्रेड सेंटर है उसके इर्द गिर्द सारे हर पास यहाँ पे बम गिर रहे हैं। आप देख सकते हैं इस एरिया में बहुत बुरा हाल है।
Well, at least 11 Indians have been reportedly missing after a cargo ship sank off the coast of the Philippines in the Pacific Ocean as a typhoon churned in the region. The 33,205-ton Emerald Star had 26 Indians on board. The Japanese Coast Guard said it had received a distress signal from the vessel early today when it was about 280 kilometers east of the northern tip of the Philippines. 3 other vessels sailing near the area were able to rescue 15 crew members. Well, the Congress on Friday set up a 3-member screening committee for selection of candidates for the upcoming Himachal Pradesh Assembly election. The chairman of the Congress screening committee will be former MP Jitendra Singh, while MP Gaurav Gogoi and MLA Vijay Inder Singla have been nominated as its members. The panel will screen the Congress candidates for all 68 assembly constituencies before their names are approved and recommended by the State Election Committee for the final nod from the party leadership. The Election Commission on Thursday announced that polls for the state would take place on November 9th and counting will be on December 18th.
The Congress party is extremely confident of winning both the elections in Himachal Pradesh and Gujarat. In both states, we have seen tremendous response after Rahul Gandhi ji's rallies. In Himachal Pradesh, after declaring the current Chief Minister as a face in the upcoming elections.
हिमाचल की जनता का इंतज़ार ख़त्म हुआ और हिमाचल की पुकार भाजपा सरकार का समय शुरू हुआ। हिमाचल की जनता 2012 के चुनाव के बाद हर चुनाव भारतीय जनता पार्टी को जिताया, चाहे वो उपचुनाव हो, चाहे वो शिमला के कॉरपोरेशन चुनाव हो या लोकसभा की चारों सीटें भी भारतीय जनता पार्टी को जिताई हैं। ये अपने आप में दिखता है कि जनता कांग्रेस से दुखी है, त्रस्त है और एक विकास वाली सरकार को चाहती है और विकास के लिए भारतीय जनता पार्टी जानी जाती है।
Well, after a 2-week lull, violence returned to Darjeeling on Friday. A sub-inspector was shot dead and 4 policemen were injured in clashes between the police and alleged supporters of the Gorkha leader Bimal Gurung. Acting on a specific tip-off about Gurung's presence near his residence at Pathlebas, security forces were moving towards his operational headquarters when armed cadres opened fire at the forces. The crossfire continued for several hours, after which the police raided Gurung's residence and recovered 6 AK-47 rifles, an improvised pistol, 500 rounds of cartridges and other explosives. Bimal Gurung has been in hiding since August after cases under the Unlawful Activities of Prevention Act were registered against him for his alleged involvement in several bomb blasts in Darjeeling and adjoining areas. BJP President Amit Shah on Friday said there was no question of corruption in his son J. Amit Shah's company. Speaking for the first time on allegations against his son, Shah claimed that his son never did any business with the government. He was referring to a report in the news portal that claimed that J's business fortunes zoomed after the BJP came to power in 2014. The BJP chief also criticized the Congress, which used the report to attack his son as well as Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The Congress has demanded an inquiry into the matter, while the BJP called the article defamatory. On October 9th, J. Shah filed a criminal defamation suit against the Wire, a metropolitan court in Ahmedabad. There's a look at some more news from across the country and nationwide. 3 masked gunmen today robbed a bank in Ratnipora area in Jammu and Kashmir's Pulwama district, decamping with several lakh rupees. The men barged into a branch of the Jammu and Kashmir bank and fled with the cash. They also damaged the CCTV cameras. The security forces today arrested a Hizbul Mujahideen terrorist from the Pastuna forest area of Tral in Pulwama district. Gulzar Dar was apprehended in a joint operation by the Indian Army, the Jammu and Kashmir Police and the CRPF during a cordon and search operation. The Supreme Court today sought the response of the Ryan Group owners on a petition to cancel their anticipatory bail granted by Punjab and Haryana High Court. The Pintos had earlier approached the Bombay High Court as they apprehended arrest in the case after the school was accused of negligence in the death of the minor boy. It's time for a short break now, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
St. Thomas Basilica, one of the world's 3 churches that is built over the Tomb of Apostles. St. Thomas was one of the 12 apostles of Jesus Christ who brought Christianity to India. With an underground tomb where the remains of St. Thomas are laid, this magnificent basilica is of Gothic architecture. The stained glass of the church depicts some divine moments of St. Thomas's life. In 2006, this church was conferred with the status of National Shrine.
The world today is talking about reactive nitrogen becoming a pollutant. even though it's a nutrient in our food production system, can become a pollutant if it is in a drinking water source. Sewage becomes the second largest contribution and the fastest growing contributor to reactive nitrogen load. The amount of ammonia, urea, nitrogen that is lost through domestic sewage, if that can be recycled back into crops, you can cut down the fertilizer by as much as 40%.
Watch Eureka with Professor N. Raghuram, Dean at School of Biotechnology, GGS Indraprasth University, Dwarka, only on Rajya Sabha television.
Misty valleys, foaming rivers. Perched atop all these is Cherrapunji, also known as Sohra or Churra, which means the land of oranges. Year-round rain had once placed Cherrapunji in the record books as the wettest place on earth. Today, climatic changes have pushed it out of the top wet slot. But Cherrapunji continues to retain its pristine features. These perpetual clouds and the all-pervasive mists.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, China has said that it will continue to actively participate in UNESCO and call for other countries to support the institution. This comes a day after the US and Israel announced that they were quitting the UN Cultural Organization. The withdrawal of the United States, which is meant to provide a fifth of UNESCO's funding, is a major blow for the Paris-based organization. UNESCO was founded after World War II to help protect cultural and natural heritage around the world. It is best known for designating World Heritage sites such as the ancient city of Palmyra in Syria and the US's Grand Canyon National Park. Under UNESCO rules, the US withdrawal will become effective as of the end of December 2018.
联合国教科文组织的宗旨是推动教育、科学和文化领域的国际合作，促进文明相互理解和融合，维护世界和平，实现共同发展。中方希望所有国家都能为此做出贡献。中方将继续积极地参与联合国教科文组织的工作，并支持联合国教科文组织的工作。我们愿意就此同其他国家开展合作。
Now to the latest from California. Firefighters faced another round of dry, windy conditions on Friday as they continued to battle wildfires across the US state. The death toll from the most lethal wildfire event in California's history has now risen to 31, while more than 400 people are still missing. The wildfires that began last Sunday have been raging on, consuming over 3,500 homes and businesses and more than 190,000 acres of land. The causes of the fires are still under investigation. More than 8,000 firefighters and support personnel are battling over fires. A state of emergency continues in Napa Valley, Sonoma and Yuba counties in Northern California. Meanwhile, relief shelters are working to help affected California residents get through the disaster. Over 20,000 people have been evacuated and about half of them have been accommodated in shelters.
The Red Cross provides as much comfort as we possibly can. We offer them food, shelter, so we set up cots if they're going to stay overnight, blankets. We also worked with the Salvation Army here in Orange County, and they provided a lot of the food. We've also had a great response from the community bringing in donations. We've had restaurants that would bring in food to help feed our people. Obviously, the school district has been wonderful in allowing us to use this gym, so it's been a real cooperative effort to be able to help all the people that were affected by the fires.
US President Donald Trump is expected to withdraw backing from the nuclear accord with Iran. The White House says that the US President will make an announcement over the weekend on an overall Iran strategy, including whether to decertify the international deal curbing Tehran's nuclear program. The move would not withdraw the US from the deal but give Congress 60 days to decide to do so by reimposing sanctions. Under the 2015 accord, Iran agreed to freeze its nuclear program in return to the partial lifting of sanctions. Donald Trump has been a long-standing critic of the deal and pledged to scrap it during his campaign. In his speech at the UN General Assembly last month, Trump had described the deal as one of the worst and most one-sided transactions the United States has ever entered into. He even said that the deal caused embarrassment to the United States. Speculation that the US president might refuse to rectify the deal has caused alarm among US allies and some members of his own administration. Floods and landslides continue to ravage Vietnam, claiming more lives and displacing thousands of people. At least 54 people died and 39 are missing in one of the worst floods Vietnam has seen in years. The storm that hit central Vietnam on Tuesday also injured 31 people and submerged more than 30,000 houses, damaged infrastructure, crops and livestock. Over 300 houses collapsed. Heavy rains in the central and northern regions disrupted transportation in some areas, hampering efforts to rescue the missing. Hoa Binh province in the northwest is the worst hit and has declared a state of emergency. Here's a roundup of some other news from across the world in Global Buzz. South Africa's Supreme Court of Appeal has upheld a High Court ruling to reinstate hundreds of corruption charges filed against Zuma before he became president. State prosecutors set aside the charges in April 2009, which paved the way for Zuma to run for president. The National Prosecuting Authority has to decide whether to reinstate the charges, which relate to a 30 billion rand government arms deal arranged in the late 1990s. An anti-corruption court on Friday adjourned the indictment of Pakistan's ousted Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, his daughter and son-in-law in the Panama Papers case till October 19 due to the protests by lawyers. The National Accountability Bureau had registered 3 cases of corruption and money laundering against Sharif, his family members and Finance Minister Ishaq Dar in the Islamabad Accountability Court. South Korea has detected a 4th small earthquake near North Korea's main nuclear test site after the country's 6th and most powerful nuclear test explosion last month. South Korea's weather agency said that the 4 quakes occurred because of the underground nuclear explosion, which weakened or affected the tectonic plate structure in the area. Here's a roundup now of some sports news and sports beat. India's run at the FIFA Under-17 World Cup came to an end yesterday. India lost to Ghana 0-4 in their final Group A match at the Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium in New Delhi on Thursday. While Eric Aya scored the opener, Richard Danso and Emmanuel Toku guided Ghana to a 4-0 victory over India. With the win, Ghana entered the knockout stage and is at the top of the group with a goal difference. The International Cricket Council on Friday gave the green light to a Test Championship and a one-day international league. A Test Championship is suggested as a mean to make the Test format more relevant for fans who have increasingly turned towards one-day matches. ICC Chief Executive Dave Richardson said that the Test Championship would start after the World Cup in 2019 and end with a final in mid-2021. In tennis, France's Richard Gasquet beat compatriot Gilles Simon to enter the quarterfinals of the Shanghai Masters on Thursday. Gasquet beat Simon 7-5, 6-7, 6-3 in a match that was interrupted by rain and will face Roger Federer in the quarterfinals. In other Shanghai Masters matches, world number 1 Rafael Nadal entered the semi-finals and world number 2 Roger Federer entered the quarterfinals, while Switzerland's Roger Federer beat Ukraine's Alexander Dolgopolov 6-4, 6-2 World number 1 Rafael Nadal defeated Bulgaria's Grigor Dimitrov 6-4, 6-7, 6-3. Federer will face Richard Gasquet in the quarterfinals, while Nadal will face Marin Cilic in the semi-finals. That's it on this newscast. Do stay tuned for the big picture on the other side of this short break.